This podcast is sponsored by Active Skin Repair, a skin health company helping people heal with natural, non toxic, medical grade ingredients. Okay, guys, I am probably one of the most accident prone people on the planet. You can blame it on many things: bad luck, poor spatial perception, but it all results in the same thing. Bree can injure herself literally anywhere, anytime. Take, for instance, last week, I was plucking my eyebrows, people, and I stabbed myself in the hand. Next thing I know, I am bleeding everywhere, going, what the heck just happened? But luckily for me, I had some active skin repair on hand, just one spray, and it felt so much better. By the next day, it was not red, not sore. It was fantastic. I love this stuff. Active skin repair can be used to treat a wide range of skin issues. And since it's all natural and non toxic, it's perfect for people like me with sensitive skin. It works by utilizing hydrochloric acid, which mimics a natural immune response to cleanse, soothe irritation, reduce inflammation, and support the healing. With over 500,000 happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and ingredients that are so safe and clean that it can be used from the youngest member of your family all the way up to the oldest, most accident prone like me, you can have one simple solution for your family's skin health needs. So visit www.activeskincarerepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and get 20% off your order by using the code NOGUILT. That's www.activeskinrepair.com. Use the code NOGUILT to get 20% off your order.
A lot of mom guilt comes from this feeling that we're bad inside. Like, we're bad people. We have to apologize. We have to keep all of our mistakes under wraps. Hopefully no one noticed them.
Oh, yeah.
It also comes with a lot of people don't apologize to their kids ever. They don't.
It's a sign of weakness. The older generation likes to
and
say.
I hear a lot about moms going to humble themselves for their kids. And when I think about that, I'm like, it's not really humbling yourself when you're apologizing. It's actually a very free process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
Bree's making funny faces at me again, guys. Always when I'm reading that, I'm like, oh, she has her tongue out. It's like doing the little
Eyes
sandwich
crossed.
thing.
I do the best I can. The roll, the tongue roll.
It's a genetic thing. It's like a.
It is.
It
I
is.
am I'm trying to think. I think my daughter is like the epitome of recessive genes.
Yeah.
Girl can do the tongue. She can do the tongue roll. She has dimples. She has blue eyes. I think freckles are also a recessive trait. So yeah, that girl is like, give me everything that's less likely to happen and I'll take it.
Can you do this with the tongue roll?
No, I cannot. I cannot.
Guys, what I just did is I made 2 rolls in my tongue. Well, actually 3.
Okay.
It's think of a roller coaster, like the hills. I could do that with my tongue. That took some practice. That was mere practice. You have to fold it first, and then you have to I think we need a YouTube tutorial on how to do this.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one of those moments that listening on a podcast, you're just not grasping the gravity of our skills here.
Yeah, I'll just have to post a picture.
Crazy. It is crazy.
No, it's crazy. Today, we're digging into the mom guilt. Guys, Bree and I we're recording this right before we're hopping on a flight tomorrow morning and getting away from our families for 2 days, which is wonderful. I suggest everybody does that. Get away from the family for 2 days. But
that's a whole other podcast right there. But
there's a lot of mom guilt that comes with it. And we here at No Guilt Mom, we want to help you crush this mom guilt so it's no longer a thing that holds you back in your life. I mean, just imagine the world filled with moms who have no mom guilt, who do so much for themselves and who are so happy and fulfilled, and they still have great kids and they're a great parent as well. I mean, that's a pretty spectacular world I see there.
Yes, women that are skilled in the ability to put their oxygen mask on first so that they can then assist other people. And I love that example and I hate that example. I just want to my
the oxygen mask one
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love it because I think it's very true, right? If we have nothing to give, if we are on empty, we can't help anybody else in our lives. We can't be there as a mom, a friend, spouse, whatever, right? However, with that being said, I think it also kind of makes it sound like put your oxygen mask on because it's your job to serve everybody else and you
Yeah.
can't serve them if you don't do it. And it's like, no, 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 no,
No,
no, no, no, no.
the
It's
point of
not
your
that.
life is not to serve everybody else. It's not to serve everybody else.
Exactly.
Let's make that
Exactly.
clear. It is
Yeah.
your point. The point of your life is not to serve everyone else. And please, 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 before we get into it, if you know a mom who is struggling with this concept, if they think their entire life is revolving around their
Yes.
family, can you share this episode with them? Just share it with them, send it to them, be like, I think you'll enjoy this. There were a lot of great tips in here because we're going to give you all the great tips. So now let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast.
So, mom guilt is something that's talked about so much among moms. It is not really talked about among dads. Like, there is no such term in the world that we use for dad guilt because I don't feel like it exists. And all the men out there who say it does exist, I'm sorry, it doesn't. You're
Well,
wrong. You're
not
wrong.
not at the same level that this one does. Like, I do not like to pull the gender card on things, but, like, this is definitely something that is a huge gender, inequality. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
dads do have guilt as well, but it is not as systemic, if Bree can talk today, and it is not as, like, where people are just like, "Suck it up and deal with it." Like, we all acknowledge that there's mom guilt, but in general, it's like, be grateful. Hashtag blessed.
Oh, yeah. That is it. It is be grateful. And whenever I get with groups of moms, it is always like the same thing. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I did this for my kids. Oh, I did this for my kids. And like every single conversation is usually about the kids. And it's hard to steer away from that because I will steer away from it. And like I do it all the time. And people look at me so weird. I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, so like what have you done lately for fun? And what's that response usually
That
gotten with? It's like,
that's a
what's
hard
fun?"
that is a 'cause so, yeah, you get one of 2 things. You either get the, "Oh my god, I can't remember the last time I peed by myself," or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or you get the, like, blank deer in headlights stare. Like, they're
Mhm.
like, I don't know. Like, what do I do for fun? Well, sometimes I'll put on, like, a G-rated movie so that we don't have to watch cartoons. Like, I remember when that was the highlight of my life was that I had gotten my kids into, like, 70s, 80s PG-rated movies, so I didn't have to watch Dora the Explorer all weekend
Oh my
long. I could
gosh.
occasionally, like,
See,
mix it up with, like, Superman from 1973.
that's where I loved mobile devices because my kids used to do that. Like, they would watch, like, gosh, it wasn't Blue's Clues with them. What was it? It was Paw Patrol for my son,
Yeah.
Yo Gabba Gabba for my daughter, and I would just pull out my cell phone with headphones. I'd be looking like, sitting with
Uh-huh.
them, but I'd be watching Scandal. Which is great. But, like, here's the thing with mom guilt is that I remember watching my mom and I was leaving for college. And, I mean, looking back at the age of my mom too, I'm pretty sure she was probably going through menopause as well, but it was a very emotional time for
Mhm.
her. Like, emotional, like, I couldn't even get on the phone from college without her breaking down in tears and, like, saying how I left. You know, I left
Aw.
them. I left them. And I feel like that is pretty it's not rare in
Yeah.
parents. Like, you see a lot of moms in particular breaking down and not knowing what to do with themselves when their kids leave the
Oh,
house.
yeah.
And
I lived it.
yeah,
I
that's
lived that, so I know what you're talking about.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been so aware of in my parenting journey
Yeah.
because from the other side, seeing
Not
that
fair.
happen, like it hurt so bad. I felt so, so bad. Like I was disappointing everyone. So now, like, I just want to paint this picture of what it looks like when mom guilt really goes down. Cause while no guilt mom, I always talk about it as being an ideal and like I haven't reached it, I'm doing pretty good at it. I feel like I don't have much mom guilt in my life. So much so that I was just talking with my husband the other day, and I'm like, I love that our kids are growing up and doing things on their own and being
Yeah.
independent. Like this feeling of just being able to go out on a date, the two of us, and not have to arrange babysitting
Right.
is amazing.
I
Yeah.
love that you guys do that. That was like I do feel like I saw because I remember when you guys started doing that, like seeing the joy of being able to do stuff.
Well, yeah, even now, like it as they get older, like, we can go on night dates and not have to do it during the workday because they could stay
Mhm.
home, and, like, I was even thinking, I'm like, "We should ask you and Miguel to go and, like, meet us at a restaurant sometimes," because it's like we have all this freedom, and I feel like it was before we had kids almost, like, I'm getting back to that feeling of just being able to go
Right?
places and being able to do things and not having to worry if it's kid appropriate or not, and, like, it's amazing, Brie, it's
Well,
amazing. S
yeah, it is fantastic. Like I would say like one of my favorite things that I have learned that is letting go of mom guilt has been going places with my girlfriends. Like, I love doing stuff like going out on dates and whatnot with my husband and all that. Like my I got to experience the non-kids when I first had my divorce. And like I said, like I got to experience and it was hard. I was depressed. I stayed in bed all weekend, didn't know what to do with myself because I didn't have my kids. But
Mhm,
having moved past that, right? And I thought I was in a good spot, but then once I started getting to actually like extract myself even more, and, like, one of the best things I ever did was, I went to Disneyland, and I remember, like, telling our friend Shayna, like, "I don't like Disneyland." She tries to get me to go all the time. I'm like, "I don't like Disneyland, it's not fun." And she's like, "You have to go with adults. You don't understand, like, no kids, just adults." I went one time with a bunch of adults. I had no idea that Disneyland could be so nice. Nobody complaining about what ride to go on,
I know.
who was gonna ride with who, nobody bitching that the line was an hour long, like, it was like, "Whatever, do what you want, come, don't come, I'll wait in line with you, this sounds fun." It was awesome. And then, like, the same, like, getting bigger, like, going on trips with my friends, like, going out, like, with you and Shayna when we went to Europe, like, or even we jetted off to Mexico back in August just for a quick weekend trip, and it's so much weight gets taken off your shoulders because even when it's, like, even with
Mhm.
me, like, even if it's with your spouse, like, you're sometimes worried, like, "Oh, are they gonna be okay with this? Are they gonna be okay with that?" Like, it's a whole different level of letting go of that guilt.
Totally. So let's really define this
Okay.
mom guilt right now because we want to be really specific about what we're talking about. And mom guilt is like that voice in our head that tells us
Yeah.
that we will miss something important. Only we can handle this. We're a horrible mom if we skip out on this activity because it is not okay to let our kids suffer in any single way. That is really mom
Yeah, we're
guilt.
not as good as everybody else. I am
Mhm.
failing at this, like, that I'm not doing it right, and why is it everybody else has got it figured out and I'm struggling with this? Oh god, I know that
Mhm.
so and so is judging me right now. Like, all that,
Yeah.
all that.
And it's so easy to get sucked into the mom guilt because you will see it every single place around
Yeah.
you. Like, I find that there's a lot of mom guilt I could probably take from my mom or my mother in law. And it's completely unintentional on their part. They are not bad people. It is just the programming that they have had. For instance, I was talking with my mother in law like a few weeks ago, and I was talking about how I think I was going on a trip or
Mhm.
something. And she said something like, must be nice. And she
Uh,
didn't mean anything by it. It was totally her own interpretation of it. Like she did not mean to put anything on me. I know that for
yeah.
certain. Like she is not she's a really, really great person.
You mean not
But
like when my mother-in-law used to say, like, "I don't know how I raised kids without a degree like you have."
oh my gosh.
Sorry,
But like
bringing in my own there.
no, but that's true
Right,
life.
yeah.
It's real life. Like, if you are listening right now and you're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, my mother-in-law and my mom, like, put so much guilt on me, and they have these little passive aggressive digs and comments." And it's a passive aggressive thing. So, anytime, like, you would wanna counter them on it or call them out on it, they will probably be like, "No, that's not what I meant. No, like, you're being too sensitive. You're
Oh,
being
I
too
hate that
sensitive." Like
one. And that is without the
but
the mood swings that I'm dealing with right now, like, yeah, I hate that one. "You're being sensitive. Why don't you know how to take a joke?" That's not what I meant. You're totally taking it out of context. Really? Because it was only one sentence
Yeah.
long. Pretty sure the context was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I call malarkey on that one. Call
Yeah.
malarkey because, oh my goodness, all of this stuff around you right now is contributing to your mom guilt. But once you can like see it and take it out for what's happening, because if I hadn't done like all of this work in No Guilt Mom and trying to get over my own mom guilt and really taking the action steps, that little must be nice would have like drilled its hole into my brain and lived there as like a little like seed that germinates every time the mom guilt
Aw.
happens, and there'd be like this little tree forming in my brain that's like, oh no, you should do this, oh
Yeah.
no, you should do that,
Oh,
oh no, it's not
no.
pretty.
No.
It's not pretty at all. So that is what mom guilt is, and right after this we're going to talk about how you can start fighting back against it.
If you've been with us for a while, you've heard me talk about my dog Max. He's more than just my pet, he is my little lifesaver. Max joined us unexpectedly 9 years ago, and since he trotted his little furry butt into our family's life, he has been my constant companion. He's been with me through my divorce, my remarriage, our 3 different homes that we've been living in, the times where I've been too sick and could not get out of bed, he stayed by my side. And then there were the times when we were having so much fun and laughing so hard that his zoomies started and seemed to go on literally forever. I honestly don't know what I would do without him. He is my best furry friend. And if you are getting a new pet soon, that means that you need to be thinking about all the things you need to get for them, like food, toys, a bed. And something else you may not be thinking about is pet insurance. That is why you should check out ASPCA Pet Health Insurance.
The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier for pet parents like you to help your pet get the care that they may need. They allow you to customize your plan, helping ensure that your pet's plan is as unique as they are.
The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program has been around for over 18 years and they have helped more than 600,000 pets during that time because vet bills can really add up, especially when you're least expecting it. It's simple. Just go use their app to submit a claim and you'll receive your reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account.
To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com slash no guilt. That's aspcapetinsurance.com slash no guilt. Again, that's aspcapetinsurance.com slash no guilt. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
Well, hey there, busy mama. Are you looking for ways to make your life easier, your home less chaotic, and at the same time add more joy to your life? My name is Deanna Yates, and I'm the host of Wanna Be Clutter Free, a podcast all about letting go of the stuff we don't need in our lives so that we can focus on what truly matters. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to throw it all away or make you feel guilty about keeping something you love, no matter how many other people don't quite understand it. But I will give you practical and, more importantly, actionable advice so that you can make progress right away. And you won't just hear it from me, there are amazing guests too. It's like having your bestie in your pocket telling you it's okay to let go of the things that are not serving you and your family in a totally non judgmental way. So join me over on the podcast where we can work on progress over perfection for those of us that want to be clutter free.
So if you have that little tree growing inside your brain right now that's like branching out and like totally taking you under its control, we want to talk about some ways to really crush your mom guilt, get rid of it, doing the work it takes to get past it.
And isn't some of that like also just recognizing like where we get it from? Like, I think, like,
Totally.
that's a big factor of it because, like, if we don't recognize where it's coming from and we give a those were great examples that we did before the break about how, like, you might hear it from, like, other people, but, I mean, I if you don't know where it's coming from, then it's hard to even get to a point where you can start to quiet it down. So, for starters, like,
Mhm.
one of my big ones that I get it from all the time is social media and, quite honestly, my own fears.
Yeah. Can
Knowledge
you
can
think
be
of like
bad for me.
can you think of a recent social media post that you saw that made you go, "Oh, like that makes me feel kind of icky inside."
Um, trying to think. Like right now, I've seen quite a few about having these interactions with their kids, their teens, because I have
Mhm.
teens right now. So having these interactions with their teens where like they role play something where like their teen is upset and then they sit down and they talk to them and it's like it reminds me of the 1990s, our sitcoms, Full House, how
Yeah.
there's this huge problem, but it gets resolved within 30 minutes and everybody's happy at the end. Like, I'll see those and I get so upset and feeling like I'm such a crappy mom when I don't get those results the first
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And even though
Those are triggering.
yeah, and even though so, like, it's for me, it's a couple things. It's like, "Oh, I'm a crappy mom because I'm divorced, and so I've made my kid's life hell." That's the whole, like, fear factor talking right there. But then there's the other part of, like and I know this in our work we do with No Guilt Mom, like, we tell moms all the time, like, "It's a long game. It's a long game." All these techniques, all these strategies, there is no magic pill, guys. I hate to burst your bubble. There is no magic pill that makes something go away like that. But yeah, it's so, like, I get wrapped up in the social media. I'm like, "Well, it worked for them in 30 seconds. Why doesn't it work for me in 30 seconds?"
Yeah, and social media is hard. Also coming from the other side of it where you're like putting yourself out there and then people will comment on you. There was just something on our social media this morning where Brie and I did a video about like, you're the mom of a
Oh,
teen
yeah.
when and like we had so much fun with that video because it's something that I think like most moms can relate to. Like these
Yeah.
are the behaviors you get from teens. You get the sassiness. You get this feeling that like you aren't doing enough or you're not cool. I mean, my daughter's recent dig on me was in at the dinner table where it wasn't a dig
Uh-huh.
directly, but she mentioned something like, "Oh yeah, you have a side part going on." And I'm like, "What is wrong with my
I will
side part
defend that side
today?"
part. I'm the one that suggested it. I will defend that to my death.
Defe Oh my yeah, but she says it's so
Yeah,
millennial. And I'm like, "I
right.
am a millennial." Like, what are you talking about?
Like,
Like
they yeah, like, they say it in a way it's what I think, Tina Fey had, like, a really good, like, I've seen it, a little soundbite of it where she was on some talk show. She's like, "Yeah, having a teen is like having that office crush that doesn't really like you back, that you're like, 'Oh, hey, I'm gonna do this. Like, you wanna come? Maybe? You're busy? No? Yeah?'" We're constantly
but
trying to impress them, and they're constantly like, "Whatever."
Whatever, you're so uncool. Well, I've had these discussions with her before about, like, how those hurt my feelings, and so I looked at her and I'm like, "You just insulted my side part." And she's like, "Well, it works for you. Like, it's good for you, mom. I just wouldn't make that choice myself." You just have to laugh after a while because it's so like, she's just digging it. She's digging her grave a little bit more, like,
Serenity now.
taking
Serenity
the
now.
shovel and, like, throwing it over her shoulder. But so we posted this video on social media and it's funny, like go watch it. And this woman just commented this morning, "I'm sorry that was your experience with teens. I raised 3 of them and they never insulted me." And I'm like,
Oh, but you just didn't realize it.
that's where I pull my serenity out.
They did. You just didn't catch it. Or
Maybe you didn't catch it.
or
They're very sneaky with
or
it.
perhaps your kids don't say stuff around you, but they say it around it's
That
still said, just not around you.
that you know what? That is the funny part because
Oh, yeah, because I have somebody in my life that says that to me all the time. "Well, I don't kids don't do that around me." Oh, that's great.
that's
I'm
because they don't tell you
I'm
anything.
so glad. Chances are you don't know half of their lives. Anyway, sorry.
It's really funny because Josh and I were just talking about this the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't ever remember telling my parents all of this stuff about my life." And I'm like, "Yeah, I never told my parents this much either."
Oh, yeah.
Because like our kids would come to us with their worries, with their fears, with their frustrations, and like my son recently has a fear. He had a dream that the house across the street, which is for sale right now, someone moved in there and kidnapped
Oh
him.
my god.
And yeah, and he couldn't like he doesn't wanna ride his bike to school because of this dream.
That's
And we
intense.
both remember like, my husband and I both remember having dreams like that, but we would never tell it to our parents because I didn't ever wanna put that on my parents, I think. I
Well,
didn't want them to think it was like, make a big deal out of it, nor did I think, like, a lot of times, I mean, I don't remember specifically, but I'm guessing I was told, "Oh, it's no
that's
big
what I
deal.
was
Don't worry
gonna
about
say,
that."
like, we grew up in the
Yeah.
'80s, '90s where, like, our parents were Mine, I was a latchkey kid. I had my green jelly necklace that had my house key on the end of it, and, like, ate ice cream for breakfast and gorged on junk food when I got home. I just knew I had to have the house clean and ready by the time they got home at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Like, that's
Mhm.
but you were also told, like, "Suck it up, you're okay." And and
Suck
and
it
they
up.
didn't do
Suck
it
it up,
out of, like,
buttercup.
anger or anything like that, like, it just that's what their societal norms were. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I think part of that is, like, again, like, looking back, this mom guilt comes from what we've been taught by our parents, like you said, those gender roles and expectations of moms, it's our job to fix everything, like, how many times have you heard the joke of, like, "Oh, I know my kids will be in therapy talking about this later to their therapist about how I screwed this up."
Yeah.
Why you?
Why
Why mom?
what
Why
why did you screw
why
it
is
up?
it always on
Yeah.
mom?
I think that's unfair. Usually it's dad. No, I'm kidding.
I'm an equal opportunity trauma person, if you ask me. Like, I'm pretty sure if you ask my kids, they will say that, like, both mom and dad have given them plenty of opportunities to talk about things in therapy. But I
But I think
digress.
like a lot of mom guilt comes from this feeling that we're bad inside. Like we're bad people. We like have to apologize. We have to keep all of our mistakes under wraps. Hopefully no one noticed
Oh,
them.
yeah.
It also comes with like a lot of people don't apologize to their kids ever. Like they don't
It's a sign of
they
weakness, the
we
older generation
yeah,
likes to
and I hear
say.
a lot
"Hmm,
about moms going to humble themselves for their kids. And when I think about that, I'm like, it's not really humbling yourself when you're apologizing. It's actually a very free process because when you are allowed to talk openly about your mistakes and say like, "Hey, I really am not proud I did
yeah,
that." It
teaching
opens
empathy."
so many doors. Yeah, you teach empathy. You show kids like, hey, if somebody is grumpy to you or mad at you, it's probably not you. Because here you are explaining to them, yeah, I lost my cool with you because this is like the story I'm telling myself and this is what's getting under my skin and I also have this, this and this. So it's a real good
I
thing.
think it's huge because, again, like, you also know that people cannot you can't stuff your feelings down. Like, if that is one thing that
Yeah.
the '80s taught us is that we can't keep stuffing our feelings down. It just don't there isn't enough Valium in the world to, like, mommy's little helpers to make us, like, zombified, and nobody wants to be like that. So, you have to
No.
be able to work through your feelings, which means you're going to occasionally not be perfect because, oh, I don't know, we're human. And teaching your kids that they don't have to live up to perfection is amazing because, like, we've had so many therapists and doctors on the podcast that have talked about the rise in mental health and anxiety and depression with our generation and our kids' generation. We're only adding on to that when we give this perception that we only do things perfectly, we never make mistakes,
Hmm.
and that everything has to be done just so. It's not
Yeah.
helping for anybody.
It's not helping for anybody. No.
Yeah.
No. So it's what's a process of letting go too when it comes to mom guilt. And there is one thing that does happen when you start letting go of things, like mistakes happen. Things that like you felt like you should be on top of happens. In fact, one just happened to me and I'm going to tell you what it is right after this break.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids because now that those little ones are here, whew, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.
Hey there, I'm Debbie Reber, the founder of Tilt Parenting and the author of the book Differently Wired. The mission of Tilt is to change the way neurodivergence, whether that's having a learning disability, having ADHD, being gifted, autistic, or some combination of all of the above, is perceived and experienced so differently wired kids and the parents like us raising them can truly thrive. On the Tilt Parenting podcast, I get to talk with authors, therapists, educators, and parenting experts who are committed to this mission. I ask the questions my listeners are most curious about when it comes to supporting our kids. And in turn, my guests share strategies for challenges, out-of-the-box ideas for navigating school, best practices for therapies, tips for advocating, and so many thoughtful insights on what it really takes to help our kids grow up feeling seen and respected so they can create awesome lives for themselves. I know that raising a differently wired kid can feel overwhelming and isolating, but I promise you, you are not alone, and it can feel so much better. If you're on this parenting journey, come listen to Tilt Parenting. Together, we can shift this paradigm and show up for our exceptional kids with hope, possibility, and joy.
So we've gotten a little bit about what you can start doing about the mom guilt. And one of the first things you could start doing is letting go of things, letting go of this feeling that you have to make sure that everything is in line and perfect and wonderful. There was a social media post actually the other day where it was talking about how to respond to your partner or your husband or spouse when he rejects your claims about the mental load. And one of them was like something I hear actually from my husband is, why you don't have to do that many things. Like no one asked you to do that many things. And the response this psychologist gave that women could give was, oh, well, of course, no one asked me to do it, but these things need to be taken care of. And I'm like, hold up. I don't agree with this. I do not agree with this. I feel like some things in our lives can be dropped so that other people can step up and take care of them. For sure, there are some things that are bigger pains when they're dropped, but there's nothing that can't be fixed.
Right.
So, for
If
example,
it's not burned down, it still can be
it's not burnt down. We have to, we buy yearbooks for our kids during the school year.
Yeah.
And we last year actually we bought my daughter's yearbook twice because we could not remember if we bought it in the first place.
Which is a whole
This is
other
a
thing
problem.
about how there should be a system to catch that, but neither here nor there today.
It's impossible. We have so many things going on in our lives. Yearbooks are not top priority. And so this year, we made sure that my daughter had one yearbook. I'm like, I'm taking care of this, Josh. And I swear I said, you take care of the other, of our son's yearbook.
Mhm.
Maybe I didn't say it. I don't remember.
You're like,
I
the
really
thought
don't
came
remember.
through your head, whether or not it was verbalized.
I know it came through my head. Yes.
Don't you hate that when you're like, I could have swore I said it. I see it in my head, me saying it, but I could have also walked through the conversation in my head. That does happen.
Yeah. So all of these reminders came through on the stupid Parent Square, which I hate Parent Square so much. It is this app that our school district uses that is basically like social media for school announcements. So every
have that
day
app.
there's a ping.
Oh.
Oh my, some schools have it, some schools do not.
All right.
Every day there is some notification about something else that needs to be reminded or something. So this yearbook thing comes through and it's like, oh, yearbook sales are closing. And I was like, oh yeah, we got that. We got that. Yearbook sales are closed. And then my husband brings up at dinner, hey, I was looking and I can't find the yearbook receipt for our son. And I'm like, what? And I look through and I'm like, what company are they even through? I don't know what company they're through because they change companies every single year. And it turns out we didn't get him a yearbook. And so there's this number that says, and we got this at the close of the school day, by the way. Call the office. They ordered some. You could be put on the waiting list. So 7:30 a.m., I set a reminder on my calendar, Brie. 7:30 a.m., my reminder goes off to call the school office to get my son on this waiting list. 7:30 a.m. When the school opens, guess what? Waiting list already filled. They're all taken. They ordered 13 additional yearbooks, all gone.
Yeah.
My son is not getting a yearbook this year.
Wah, wah.
And when he heard that, he was crying. He was crushed because he felt like he's going to be left out of all of the yearbook activities at school and everything. And immediately in my head, the first thing is because his stupid mom couldn't get it together and buy the yearbook. And I'm like, hold up there.
Yeah. You're like, let's talk about this Missy mom guilt.
That's a really crappy thing to say to yourself, Joanne. And in balance, we call it Bob, the voice of our Bob. Like, Bob, shut up. I have a lot of stuff going on right
Right.
now. A lot of stuff going on, Bob. Like, this is unfair. And I apologized to him. I said, dude, I'm so sorry. I know this hurts. I'm so sorry. And I just left it there. And that's all I could do. But it happens. Balls get dropped. And the only way other people are going to know to pick it up is if those balls get dropped and everyone experienced the
Yeah.
consequences. Now, my son, he's 10, going to be 11 next year. Guess who is probably going to be on my ass to buy him a yearbook
Probably.
and to make sure that that I get it
But you
done.
know what else?
Um,
Guess who's probably not gonna
Mhm.
remember this in 3 years, in 6 months? Like,
I don't know. They have memories of
I'm
elephants.
just
They really
saying that
do. They remember
they're not gonna
things
still
from
be upset about it later. Like, it's gonna suck,
yeah,
it's gonna be really hard on that day of signing the yearbooks, and there are alternatives. Again, tales from a mother who has forgotten yearbooks before. That
yeah.
there are, like, little things that you can do, but still, it's we feel terrible in the moment. We feel awful.
Yeah, it does feel awful, and emotions are real hard.
Yeah.
They are really, really hard, and I think one of the ways that I have improved on mom guilt, and I wanna know what you think about this too, Brie, from your own, like, viewpoint, is just accepting that emotions are uncomfortable at times and that it is going to be uncomfortable in this moment. But also, if you let yourself feel that emotion, like I felt the guilt right there. I felt the sadness. I felt the disappointment in myself all in that moment. And I just let myself feel it and gave myself some self-compassion for it. Instead of beating myself up and being like, man, you should get that under control next time. I was like, "You have a lot of stuff that you're juggling right now, Joanne. Like, he is sad. It's going to be okay. And you're hurting right now too. And you're feeling really sad and like it's painful and it's okay." And I was just there and I was hugging myself and I was sitting quietly with myself. And of course, I feel better today than I did yesterday about it.
Yeah.
And you get through it. And I think that has helped me a lot in mom guilt, knowing that if something happens and I forget something or if something like the ball gets dropped, I'm going to get through it. And ultimately, I am going to be okay for it.
Yeah. I'm still
So will my kids. My kids will be okay too.
I'm still working through that journey myself. Like, I actually my process is I have to do a lot of talking it out because and just saying how I feel because I used to just keep it all in, which didn't help. It just made Bob louder
Mm-mm.
because you just were like,
Mhm.
"Yep, yep, you're right, Bob. I suck." Yeah. I mean, every other mom managed to get their stuff together. Like, but for me, I think I have to like talk it through and a lot of times I have to hear somebody and that's just me and my own journey because I have my own stuff I have to
Mhm.
process. So
Yeah.
I'm not as far along, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like I have to constantly tell myself every morning I am enough. I am enough.
Mhm.
I am enough for my
Which is a good
husband.
thing.
I am
Yeah.
enough for my family. I am enough for my kids. I'm enough for my my coworkers. I'm enough for everybody because I constantly like have this thing that I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough for everybody. I'm disappointing everyone. And so I'll talk through that with my husband if I have it something that gets dropped. Like, I'm trying to think.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, like my son's birthday recently. Like he didn't want to hang out for his birthday. He turned 17 over the weekend. And the boy was like, "Nope, I signed up to work all weekend." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Cuz I don't like birthdays and I just don't want to do anything really big for my birthday. It's just not my jam." So like
Mhm.
I constantly kept second guessing everything I was doing and that I was screwing it up, and I had already broken him, and that's why he didn't wanna do his birthday because 'cause you're obviously broken if you don't wanna celebrate your birthday. Nothing
Oh,
and I
yeah.
don't
There's a
mean
lot of
doesn't
thoughts going on
right?
there.
Like, but I'm just saying, like, that is the dumbest thought ever. That because someone
But oh, wait, hold on,
well,
hold
not
on, hold
dumbest,
on. Not
sorry.
the dumbest
It's
thought
okay, but I'm
ever.
just saying, like, that's the silliest thought ever, like, that because someone doesn't enjoy an experience the same way I do that there must be
Mhm.
trauma involved in that. And why? Because I'm not a good enough parent, and that's why they have trauma. No, they're an introvert. They don't like making a big deal. Never have, mom. But
Yeah,
right?
I would approach it, like, with a lot more
Well,
compassion to
again,
yourself,
like
like,
so like
yeah,
my
it's a
my
process, yeah,
compassion like sounding board is my husband. I'll tell him all
yeah,
the nasty crazy thoughts in my head that I don't like to tell other people. And he'll just that sounds like a lot. And why are you telling yourself that? Well, because XYZ. Okay. I could tell you I never saw Robert say or do or any of that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but he was probably thinking it. Yeah, but you don't know what he's thinking, right? So like maybe. and then and then
Yeah.
after the
He
conversation,
does a good job of that, Miguel does.
right? And then
Mhm.
after the conversation, I'm like, okay, so maybe I made it a bigger deal in my head than it really was. And I am enough and we move forward. But like I have to really I'm working on that journey of giving myself the compassion and the hugs and realizing that's uncomfortable. And we can't handle tears. Anybody cries, I'm
No.
immediately like,
Well,
anything I can do to make it better.
it's so interesting. You know those things like if you wouldn't say it to a good friend, like
Right.
don't say it to yourself. So I just want to offer another perspective. When you were saying those funny thoughts, I was like, don't be mean to my friend like that. Like stop.
Right?
Like that was my that's why I jumped in. I'm like, wait a minute, you're being so mean to
I
yourself.
know, right? And
And like I'm near tears. Like
we talk about that, like, and balance
Mhm.
and everything. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've
Yeah.
talked about like what mom guilt is, how awful it could be, where it comes from. Now, what are those like let's talk a little bit more about what are those things that we can do about it to start
Mhm.
moving forward in that compassion journey. Like you said, for starters, just letting yourself feel it. That's huge.
Feel
That
it.
is
Giving
huge.
giving yourself that self-compassion instead of self-criticism.
Yes.
Like, don't beat yourself up for feeling it either. Don't beat yourself up for thinking it. Like, being like, "You are in pain right now because these thoughts are going through your head."
Yeah.
And it's like a simple shift that really, like, instead of trying to fight back against the pain and give all this resistance, the resistance disappears and you just experience the
Oh,
pain. And I feel like experiencing the pain is a lot easier than dealing with resistance and
I have
pain.
a perfect example of that. You've
Mhm.
had a day and like a million things happen. And when that million and one thing happens, you just sit down and cry. You just cry.
Mhm.
And do you not feel better most of the time after the cry is done? Like,
Yeah,
because
because
you've
you
been holding it in
mhm.
all day long. And then, like, once you finally just let yourself feel it, you're like, okay, I can move on now. I needed that. I was fighting it all day long, but I needed that. So that's like, I feel like that's a
For
physiological
sure,
example right
definitely.
there. All of us have had that happen.
I feel that that is a really good example of it. And we didn't dig into it too
Mhm.
much, but we are doing a podcast episode on this very, very soon. Is about values. And that's a way to counter expectations. Is if you feel like you're expected to do something as a mom, like, oh, you should have all the yearbooks purchased and you should make sure they're totally dressed perfectly for school and look neat and presentable. Like it's a good place to determine where your values are. And if your values lie in like connection or even growth for
Mhm.
yourself, and you're looking at your child and you're handling everything for your child so much that they are not growing, I mean, that goes directly against your
And then
values.
you've got that
And that's a
guilt.
little like wedge in
Yeah.
there and being like, oh, maybe I don't need to do all these things. Maybe it's actually going against my values doing all of these things instead of
Well,
going for
I think
them.
it's a good example of like, why am I feeling so guilty about this, about the way I'm
Mhm.
handling this? Because sometimes we don't even know why we're upset about the way we're handling it, or not upset, but guilty. Why we're feeling that guilt.
Mhm.
Chances are there's a sneaky underlying reason for it, and like you just said, it's because it goes against something that we value. Like
Yeah,
that's making that go, oh, you
exactly.
suck at this because you're not meeting this value.
Maybe, yeah, or like society and social
Oh,
media and
yeah.
like mothers-in-law and moms or any woman in your life, even the men in your life, which oh my gosh, I got so mad at my dad, but I think I've talked about that before. I definitely talked about it in the No Guilt Mom Weekly. So if you're not on that list, make sure to go subscribe to the No Guilt Mom Weekly. We have a link in the show notes. But all of those voices can get in your head and make you do things that are actually against your values in the first place. And so you feel like this resistance to it. But again, look for that episode on values. We are going to go into it deep, 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 deep. And then if you want help on this journey, we have Balance VIP for you. Like come and give it a shot. Like we have a link for you in the show notes. It is a good time in there. All of our women are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I found this group. Like this is life-changing." Jennifer, let's give a shout out to Jennifer S for a minute.
Oh my
She just
gosh, yes.
mentioned the other day, she's like, "I told my doctor about No Guilt Mom and about balance and everything I'm doing in there. And I told them to go check it out as well because it's made such a change in my parenting and like how happy I am and how connected I feel. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. So
It's a group of
come on
people
over.
that are there to help, like, support you and lift you up on your journey, however long that journey is. And whatever
Yep.
that journey is. And, like, that's the amazing thing about it. And, like, the other thing too that I love so much about balance is that not only do you, first of all, get to know that you're not the only one that has that Bob and that mom guilt and those and like I like to say, those scary thoughts going on in your head that you're like, "Oh god, I can't believe I'm saying this to myself." You're not alone. There are other people that are going through the exact same thing. But we also
Absolutely.
have the ability to give you the tools to help support you so that you can start making that mind shift. Like I know,
Mhm.
like I said, I'm not necessarily as far along as you are in the compassion, but I'm working on it. I'm not giving up on it. And 3 years ago, I
It
would have
takes
yeah, 3
practice.
years ago, I wouldn't even told
Yeah.
you I needed compassion. I would have been like, "I'm just
Yeah.
fine. I'm totally fine. I'm a child of the '90s. I'm fine. I'm not bleeding.
Yeah.
Nothing's broken. I'm fine. I can function. It's okay that the bone's sticking out,
Yeah.
but I can kinda,
Yeah.
twist it a little bit and you
You're
won't see
tough.
it, and
You're
it's all
tough.
good." Like, now I know it's because I keep telling myself that I'm not enough, and I need to keep reminding myself I am enough. And it's gonna take more than that time, but balance helps support you in that. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
thanks for stopping by.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.